Greetings everyone, Brad here with Mild Mannered EDC, and today we're going to do a review of a knife that's been in my collection, well, now 2 times. The first one I gifted away, but I missed it because I liked it a lot, so I wanted to get another one. And so I did. I picked up another one. And it never had a lot of fanfare. It never came out with, it never seemed to get a lot of attention, but I think it's a really solid knife. And if you can get it at the right price, and that's key, and we'll talk about that a little bit at the end. If you can get it at the right price, I think it's a really great option. So with that, let's go ahead and get it underway. And that is of this knife right here, the Kizer Sealion. Now, the Kizer Sealion, it's a very attractive looking knife. A lot to like on this knife. Now, this particular knife is obviously made by Kizer, a Chinese manufacturer, and this is a Chinese knife. So there you go. Might matter to you. Doesn't matter to me, but there you go. Interesting, though, the designer of this knife, if we can put it over there, so you see Sealion there, is, you can kind of see it right up here, Uli Hennike. That's right. He's a German knife designer, and you may not know his name, but I bet you know his other knife that he's very famous for. And that's this baby. This is the Kizer T1. This is a phenomenal knife. One of the best knives I think Kizer has ever made. Just a really classic, beautiful knife. So that's who Uli Hennike is. He has a lot of really interesting knives. I think he does mostly custom work these days. I haven't seen too many additional collaborations. There is a fixed blade. Sorry, if I can get the words out. There is a fixed blade version of the Sealion. Actually, I think there's a fixed blade version of the T1 as well. I think it's called the T2. If I can find some pictures, I'll dig them up and throw them up there. But yeah, so let's go ahead and get underway with this really interesting knife from Kizer. So let's start with the spec check, and then we'll do some size comparisons, and we'll get underway with the review. So we've got a blade length on the Sealion of 3.375 inches. We've got a blade thickness here of 0.12 inches. We've got a handle length of 4.375 inches and a handle thickness of 0.48 inches. Now that gives us an overall tip to tail of 7.75 inches. And a weight of 3.72 inches. So, not a small knife by any stretch of the imagination, but not overly huge. And in fact, the way it carries, and we'll talk about that in carry, yeah, it's pretty compact. So let's do a few size comparisons here. Let's do one with the old mild-mannered Bestex swordfish. Since we got kind of a Sealion, let's do a swordfish. There you go. That's how it stacks up there. Might as well do one with the T1 as well. Get another Kizer up there. So Kizer T1. There you go. You can see how that stacks up in that size range, anyways. And then how about a Benchmade bug out? So there you go. And then just a classic mild-mannered Swiss Army knife. So there. So there you go. That's where you kind of find the Sealion here stacking up against other knives that are out there. So when we do a classic mild-mannered review, we talk blade, we talk action, we talk scales and hardware, and then ergos and carry. So let's go ahead and get underway with the blade. So we've got a S35 VN blade. Let's see if I can get the, oops, there you go, it's the S35 VN. You've got this beautiful, beautiful drop point blade, very attractive, I think. It's got a flat grind, there you go, and a satin finish. So, if any of those things are speaking to you, they generally speak to me. This is definitely a design that, it's in the wheelhouse, for lack of a better word, of the kind of types of knives I like. So, yeah, it's got a great blade shape. Really, it's got, a lot of flat here, and then this really nice belly, and still very, very pointy. So, you can do a lot with these kind of blades. Now, from a grind standpoint, and this is not unusual for Kizer. So they did a pretty nice choil here, but they just kind of missed it right at the end. You can see they let the termination point go a little too close to kind of the thicker part of the blade. So if they did bump that up a millimeter or so, they probably would have been just right. But that seems to be kind of par for the course with Kizer on occasion. Now, this also seems to have a very, very, very slight recurve. I don't know if that's intentional. I don't know if that's part of the grind. It doesn't bother me, but I can see that it might bother some folks, particularly if you sharpen on flat stones or whatever. But yeah, but overall, I think the design is done really well. I actually like that they put the name on it, Sealion. I think that's cool. I like that Kizer puts the names on their knives. And then you can see the Uli Hennike maker's mark there, which I also think is really nice.
Wow, it's very nice.
Very classy. So yeah, I mean, there's like I said, it's not a overly dramatic blade, not a ton of things to talk about here. You can see all the, grind lines all going in the same direction. They didn't really do anything over the top with this, but yeah, the edges aren't sharp up here. It's not like this needs necessarily any chamfering. Could it have been chamfered? Sure, but it's not. In fact, a crown spine of this, I think, would have been really nice. I'm definitely a sucker for a crown spine. For those of you who don't know, when you crown a crown spine is when they round off the top of the knife. So you get this really kind of beautiful sort of domed effect, for lack of a better word. It's just rounded off. So it's something, a lot of Italian knives seem to do that, and I like that a lot. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. So that's where we are with the blade. You'll notice no jimping anywhere on the blade, and we'll talk about that in one particular area in a bit. But yeah, so there you go. Let's talk action. So this is running on caged ball bearings. Beautiful action. Nothing to complain about there. It's got a great detent, very dialed in. Definitely like that. It's not the most drop shutty thing ever. I suppose if I fiddle with it a bit more, the other one that I had also wasn't super drop shutty. It's good, but not, I wouldn't, it's okay. It's okay. The deployment action, however, though, is great. It's really, really good. I like it a lot. I wish it was maybe a bit easier to drop shut, but oh well, it is what it is. It's not gritty or anything, though. I mean, there's no grittiness or kind of weird feeling as you're closing it or anything like that. Centering, pretty much dead on, which is great. Certainly would hope that coming in at a price like this, and from Kizer in general, just something they usually do pretty well. No exploded.
And it exploded.
Exposed blade here, or down here on this end. So all the things you'd like from an action standpoint. It's got about a 30% lockup here, and you'll see there it's got a lock bar insert. So you can see those two screws, which show you that lock bar insert and over travel stop, which are great for not having, kind of preventing lock stick, as well as since it is a flipper a flipper frame lock, a flipper lock, flipper knife. Yeah, a flipper frame lock. It keeps the frame from the owner overextending the lock bar. So that's another nice thing included there. Good to see. So yeah, I mean, I think from an action standpoint, it's got a really great deployment. It's got an average close. So that's kind of where I would put this in the rating of things. But you can hear it's very snappy, very snappy. I like it a lot. Now, the only other complaint I have with deployment is on this flipper tab, and it is a pretty pronounced flipper tab. So it's not, if that bothers you, you definitely are going to feel it. I mean, when you run your hand, down there, yeah, I mean, you're going to notice this in your pocket a little bit. It's less of an issue for me, more of the issue that there's no jimping on it at all. So my finger, because it has a relatively strong detent, my finger will sometimes flip like that. It'll do that. And that's kind of annoying, especially if I've got extra pressure on the lock bar or something like that. So, that's definitely something to be aware of. Is it the end of the world? No. Is it an annoyance? I don't even know if I'd call it that, but it's definitely there. And so I do, maybe 1 out of every 10 or 2 out of every 10 or so, I might slip off a tab, especially if my hands are wet or been sweaty or, whatever. I don't know. So there you go. So that's what we got with action. Let's talk scales and hardware. So this is a titanium. These are titanium scales, done beautifully. Typical, really well done Kizer titanium. In fact, that Kizer titanium, it all kind of looks. It's all done pretty well. That gray titanium. It's got this sort of scalloping in there, which I actually think is quite nice. It serves no function other than being aesthetic. But you can even see the details. When one scallop started, it finishes over here on the lock bar. I mean, it's a nice, it's just well done. It's nicely done. I think it doesn't look, does it add any traction or, I don't know, maybe a little bit, but, whatever. But yeah, so I think that's done really well. I really like the fact that instead of just making this an all silver knife or gray knife, they added this beautiful little blue pivot collar, obviously on both sides, and you get this really cool blue anodized titanium pocket clip. And it is a very good pocket clip. It's springy, it's milled, it's thin. That's one of the things that bugs me most about pocket clips when they do them, especially titanium. They'll leave them too darn thick, and when they're thick like that, they just don't have much spring to them. So I really like that thin pocket clip, and it's well done. It's an attractive looking. It's not just plain; it's attractive, and it's sort of canters a little.
That's not a word.
A bit down here, so it just follows the curvature of the. It's just done really well. It hangs in your pocket well because of that. So. Yeah, I think the pocket clip's done really well. Now, it is not a deep carry pocket clip, obviously. You can probably see that. I'll go ahead and show you. Yeah. I always do this during this part. I wonder if I should... I mean, this is really more for carry, so I don't know why I do this. Let me know in the comments. I'm probably, it's probably not great there. But, yeah. Anyways, that's sort of where the carry sits. It's not deep carry. So, there is that. But, yeah, other than that, typical Kizer, obviously not the floral pivot screws that were sort of the traditional Kizer hallmark. There you go. I always kind of liked them, but a lot of people didn't, so whatever. This one's kind of traditional looking. So there you go, handles and scales and hardware. Now these aren't, also to mention, these are not milled out in any way, which might have been nice just to drop the weight a little bit. As I mentioned, this is a 3.72 inch or ounce knife, and so a little milling there might have been cool, but is what it is. And then you got some barrel spacers there too. So really simple, 1, 2, and then the pivot. So, no complaints there. So ergos and carry. So now for me, this knife fits my hand beautifully, which is one of the reasons I decided to go ahead and buy it again. And again, we'll talk price in a minute, but part of it was it just fit my hand really well. And I'm actually not normally a fan of these little downward, I don't know if that's the hilt or whatever you call this part of the knife where I don't generally like a little bump out there, because that can actually be a hot spot for people, or it just limits how many hands can sort of fit in it. But with my medium to smaller size hands, it just fits really well. And there really are no hot spots on this knife. Maybe slightly here from the back edge of the pocket clip, I definitely could feel something a little bit depending on how I'm holding it and how hard I'm using it. But yeah, and again, no jimping or anything. So, it may be something they could have improved. I will say, there are no hot spots. Oftentimes knives get hot spots right here where they have to cut out the lock bar, and it's hard for them, I guess, to chamfer that or do whatever. This one is nicely done. There is no hang up there, no little catch or anything like that. So that's done pretty well. And like I said, overall, everything's nicely chamfered. So, from an ergo standpoint, this fits me well. Will it fit everybody well? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. And if you don't like your finger sort of being constricted, this isn't really a knife you're going to choke up on because you're going to cut yourself. But yeah, so for me, it works. I don't know if it's going to work, if it would work for everybody, or if you have, huge, enormous, meat paws. But yeah, but for me, it works pretty well. And carry, as I mentioned, I showed you already the deep carry or lack of deep carry with the pocket clip, but not a ton sticks out. And, and it's blue and looks neat, and it's just kind of classy there. But other than that, I mean, one of the things I like about this is how compact it is. I mean, you get quite a bit of blade, it feels like, for me, in a pretty reasonable handle. So that's one of the things I like a lot about this design is it, apart from the flipper tab, which is fairly pronounced, it is pretty darn compact, and I think it carries pretty darn nice in the pocket. I really don't have any problem with that. I will obviously note this is not an ambidextrous knife, so lefties, sorry. This is right hand tip up only carry. So there you go. So yeah, so that kind of wraps this up. Let's talk sort of final overview and price. Let's just get price out of the way for those of you that have hung in here for 14 minutes. I appreciate it. So price. These go for about 175 bucks. I think that's what I saw on some of the bigger knife retailers. Now, I didn't pay 175 bucks for the first one I got, and I didn't pay 175 bucks for the second one I got. So that's never a price I've paid. That feels high to me. I think 175 is high for S35VN kind of, it's got some nicer aesthetic, but it's still kind of a titanium flipper frame lock. You've seen one, you've seen them all, kind of a thing. So I think 175 is too high. Now, I paid 135 for the first one that I bought, which I actually think was a reasonable price. In fact, it felt a little bit value-ish, I thought. I think I might have got it on sale or something like that. And yeah, it was a good deal, or at least it felt like a decent deal to me. I got this second one. Now, I bought this off Amazon, and so I know not everybody's comfortable buying their knives off Amazon. I'm willing to roll the dice on that on that one. I've never been burned by that, so I'm not gonna. But I got this on Amazon for 117 bucks. Good. And they're still available on Amazon for 117 bucks. That I think is a screaming deal for titanium S35VN, great fit and finish, a cool designer. Yeah, for 117, this is definitely a deal. And so if this is something that you like or you think looks great or cool or something you would enjoy having in your collection, if you don't mind buying on Amazon, I'd go scoop one up. That's a great deal. And I'll put a link down, as I always do in my videos, under the featured product or products section of my description. I'll put a link to Amazon there. So there you go. I wouldn't pay 175. I'd pay 135 probably again, but I didn't have to. I paid 117. So there you go. I think that's pretty cool. So overall, I like this knife a lot. One of the reasons I got it was because I was really a fan of the T1. I really liked Uli Hennike and what he was doing. And so I thought, you know what? Why don't I get the other Uli Hennike, the Kizer, that he did a collaboration with Kizer. And I've liked it a lot. Like I said, I liked it so much. I was sad when I didn't have it anymore, and so I picked up another one. So, although I'm really glad that the new owner of it who has it, because it was something I was really I'm glad I gifted it to him. He's a really great guy. He's been really supportive of me and the channel. He knows who he is. And yeah, so I'm glad he has it. And actually, he did some cool anoing on his, so I'm a little jealous, actually, that I may send him this one to do some ano work or something, maybe. But there you go. So with that, thanks so much for watching. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please give it a like. And, if you're liking what I'm doing here on the old mild-mannered channel, if you want to consider subscribing, please feel free to do so. Join the fun here. It's purely mild fun. Nothing extravagant going on here, right? But no, seriously, thanks so much for all the support. Really enjoyed that. We just did a really fun giveaway. Congrats to the winner on that one, and for everybody who was just hyper kind to me. Hyper kind? That's not really what I meant. Super kind? I don't know. Extraordinarily kind to me in the comments and everything else. So thank you for that. It was really affirming and made my day, or my couple of days, when I was reading those comments and trying to respond. And I think I responded to everyone. So with that, thanks so much. I hope you've enjoyed this. It's a really interesting knife. If it's speaking to you a little bit, go check out the Sealion. Cool knife. I don't think you're going to go wrong, especially at that price on Amazon. So stay safe out there. Be mild-mannered to one another. And all the best.